Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yasodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana. Yasodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tirabanachari. Yamuna Tirabanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Go Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 42. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 28, Text 42. Sarva-bhūteṣu cātmānaṁ. Sarva-bhūteṣu cātmānaṁ. Sarva-bhūtāni cātmani. Sarva-bhūtāni cātmani. īkṣetānanya-bhāvena. īkṣetānanya-bhāvena. bhūteṣv tad-ātmatām. bhūteṣu tad-ātmanam. Didn't get that right, hang on. bhūteṣv tad-ātmatām. sarva-bhūteṣu cātmānaṁ. sarva-bhūtāni cātmani. īkṣetānanya-bhāvena. bhūteṣv tad-ātmatām. sarva-bhūteṣu cātmānaṁ. sarva-bhūtāni cātmani. īkṣetānanya-bhāvena. bhūteṣv tad-ātmatām. Manam. Sarva-bhūteṣu cātmānaṁ. Sarva-bhūtāni cātmani. īkṣetānanya-bhāvena. bhūteṣv tad-ātmatām. sarva-bhūteṣu cātmānaṁ. sarva-bhūtāni cātmani. īkṣetānanya-bhāvena bhūteṣv tad-ātmatām sarva-bhūteṣu cātmānaṁ sarva-bhūtāni cātmani īkṣetānanya-bhāvena bhūteṣv tad-ātmatām sarva-bhūteṣu in all manifestations cha and ātmānam the soul sarva-bhūtāni all manifestations cha also ātmani in the Supreme Spirit īkṣeta he should see ananya-bhāvena with equal vision bhūteṣv in all manifestations eva as tad-ātmatām the nature of itself. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. A yogi should see the same soul in all manifestations, for all that exists is a manifestation of different energies of the Supreme. In this way, the devotee should see all living entities without distinction. That is realization of the Supreme Soul. Purport. As stated in the Brahma-saṁhitā, not only does the Supreme Soul enter each and every universe, but he enters even the atoms. The Supreme Soul is present everywhere in the dormant stage. And when one can see the presence of the Supreme Soul everywhere, one is liberated from material designations. The word sarva-bhūteṣu is to be understood as follows. There are 4 different divisions of species: living entities which sprout from the earth, living entities born of fermentation or germination, living entities which come from eggs, and living entities which come from the embryo. These 4 divisions of living entities are expanded in 8,400,000 species of life. A person who is freed from material designations can see the same quality of spirit present everywhere, or in every manifested living entity. Less intelligent men think that plants and grass grow out of the earth automatically. But one who is actually intelligent and has realized the self can see that this growth is not automatic. The cause is the soul. This is, by the way, small s's, as you can see up on the, on the screen there. Small s, soul, jiva. And the forms come out in material bodies under different conditions. By fermentation in the laboratory, many germs are born, but this is due to the presence of the soul. The material scientist thinks that eggs are lifeless, but that is not a fact. From Vedic scripture, we can understand that living entities in different forms are generated under different conditions. Birds evolve from eggs, and beasts and human beings are born from the embryo. The perfect vision of the yogi or devotee is that he sees the presence of the living entity everywhere. Om Ganatamiram Dasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Upakaramayam Dadati Swaparantikam. So we'll go over this translation and purport a bit to make sure we're understanding it properly. A yogi should see the same soul in all manifestations. Once again, that's a small s there. So that's referring to the jiva soul. We're supposed to see the same jiva soul in all manifestations. Same in the sense that the same quality. Not that you're the same soul as I'm. There's different jiva souls in all the different bodies, but the same category. Okay? So you're supposed to be able to, a yogi should be able to see that there's a soul in all living in all manifestations is the word it uses. And Prabhupada explains sarva-bhūteṣu, which is the word, sarva-bhūteṣu in the word-for-word translation is in all manifestations. So in the purport, Prabhupada says the word sarva-bhūteṣu is understood as follows, and he talks about the living entities. So he's not just talking about, material energy in general, but the manifestation of the 8,400,000 species. That's sarva-bhūteṣu. And a yogi is supposed to be able to see that there is a soul in all those different 8,400,000 species. And it goes on to say, for all that exists is a manifestation of different energies of the Supreme. So the living entity, the soul, is a manifestation of one of the energies of the Supreme. And that's stated in there's nothing new, it's said in the Bhagavad Gita. We learn that from the Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter. Krishna says, 7th chapter, he talks about the material energies in general. To start off, it says, Bhumerapo nalo vayu kamano buddha evacha ahankara iti yame bina prakritir ashtata, earth, water, fire, air, mind, intelligence, and false ego. These are my separated material energies. And then he says, Apariyam etastvam yam prakritim vidime param. Jiva bhuta mahabaho yayedam daryate jagat. That besides this inferior energy, it's one of his energies, but it's inferior, okay? There's the living entities who are struggling hard with the material energy and sustaining the universe. So Krishna's giving two categories of his energies there. And then he goes on to say, Etad yonini bhutani sarvaniti upadhadaya aham krishnasa jagata prabhava pralayastana. That of all that is spiritual and all that is material, know for certain that I am both its origin and its dissolution. So Krishna's making it clear that, both that external material energy, those 8 material elements, and the jivas, they're all coming from him. They're emanating from him. And then he goes on to say, Matak paratanam nanyat kinchirasti dhananjaya mai sarvamidam protam sutre manigana iva. That O Dhananjaya, know that everything is strung upon me as pearls are strung upon a thread. It's all resting on Krishna. So they're out there, they're manifested, but Krishna's kind of holding it all together. And that example of pearls strung on a thread is, if you kind of break the thread, then the pearls can go all over the place like that. They're all strung on the thread there. So, in this way, the devotee should see all living entities without distinction. That is the realization of the Supreme Soul, capital S, capital S. So that's also explained in the Bhagavad Gita a little bit, actually earlier, in the 4th chapter. Krishna says, Yajgatva na punar mohan evam yasyashi pandava yena bhutani asheshani drakshashyatmani atomai. That when you've learned the truth from a self-realized soul, you'll know that all beings are part of me, they're in me, they're mine. So basically, in that verse, Krishna is explaining that all the souls are his spiritual expansions. So they're all, in that sense, they're all part of him. The souls are as eternal as Krishna. I heard Prabhupada give an example yesterday. So just like your body, when your body is born, it's born with your hands, your fingers, your toes. And it's all happening at the same time. But those parts are all meant to serve the body as a whole. So Prabhupada just gave that as an analogy, that we're as eternal as Krishna, but we're subordinate. We're part and parcel. Our constitutional position is we're meant to, just like the parts of the body are meant to serve the whole body, so the jivas are meant to serve the Krishna, the Supreme Soul. Okay, so the question is, so this is how a yogi is supposed to see. He's supposed to be able to see how the same soul is in all manifestations or in all different species of life. He's supposed to, he's supposed to be able to see that, and he's supposed to be able to see that without distinction. He says that's realization of the Supreme Soul. How do you get there? How do you get to this point? So this is what, Lord Kapila is talking to his mother here, and he's telling her that this is what a yogi is supposed to be able to see. But, okay, so how do you get there? Well, that was also explained, and it's explained here, and it's explained in the Bhagavad Gita, in the verse before, the one I mentioned about Yajgyatva, the verse before that is the very famous verse, Tadvidi paripatena paripashnena sevya upadekshanti te gyanam gyaninas tattvadarshina. That just try to learn the truth by approaching a bona fide spiritual master, inquire from him submissively, render service. Then upadekshanti te gyanam gyaninas tattvadarshina. Then the self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. And it was by the mercy of the spiritual master, one is awarded spiritual vision. It's one thing to have information, right? It's another thing to have realization, right? With realization comes transformation. I mean, information's there; it's the first step, but you got to go beyond that. You have to put that information into practice, apply that information in your life, and in order to experience realization and transformation, and like that. So that's what we're really after. And as I said, that's only accomplished by the mercy of the spiritual master, right? Prabhupada, one purport in the second canto, where Prabhupada said in material thing, one's prowess, one's ability figures into the thing, but he said in spiritual life, it's all more or less based upon the mercy. All advancement is based upon the mercy of the spiritual master. Okay? So we have to please the spiritual master by our service attitude. And when the spiritual master is pleased by our service attitude, then Krishna is pleased. Like every morning we sing, yasya prasada bhagavat prasado, yasya prasadam nagati. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the mercy of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, you're nowhere in spiritual life, basically was what that's saying. So we have to please the spiritual master by our service attitude, and then we will be awarded spiritual realization. That's also mentioned in the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Those two most famous verses, to those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love. To those who are constantly devoted, paraphrasing that, to those who strictly follow the instructions of the spiritual master, with the right attitude, with an attitude, an intention of trying to please the spiritual master, Krishna says, I give them the intelligence. I give them the intelligence how they can, expand that. And then the result of that is, Krishna says, out of compassion for them, those who are trying to strictly follow the instruction of the spiritual master nicely, with a mood, with an intention to please him, says, out of compassion for them, those people, I destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So Krishna enlightens you. Krishna enables us to understand the philosophy. We go from information to realization, transformation, like that. And that's what we're after. Okay? As I said, it's one thing to, know something or just have some information. It's another thing to actually. I'll give you an example. Okay, this is kind of like a pretty mundane example. I used to play basketball. Okay, so probably the first day when I was introduced to the game, I remember I can visualize it in my mind here. I was in the gym, and it was physical education class, and the teacher was there, and he was telling everybody, okay, when you dribble, don't look at the ball. He said that's going to be a little hard at first, but if you do that, if you just practice it. Don't look at the ball when you dribble, and then you'll be able to. You'll get it. It'll become second nature after a while, and then you'll be able to be, much more versatile on the court. You'll be able to, do everything. But if you don't have if you don't do that, then you look at the ball to start off because you don't feel confident, and you'll be stuck. You see, and so I didn't listen to what he said. I tried doing it without looking at the ball, and it was kind of hard, and I was, kind of fumbling around, and so I started looking at the ball. And I always used to look at the ball, and I didn't progress properly, because of that. I never became a good ball handler because I didn't follow the basic instruction. You see, same thing with playing I used to play the accordion. Same thing. The teacher says, when you're playing, don't look at the keys, don't look at your hands, just look at the music sheet, and you'll learn. Same thing with typewriting. I'm a loser. and all these three things, I was told the right thing to do. Don't look at the keys. You got to memorize where the different letters are on the keyboard, And then it takes a while, it might take some people get it in a day or two, some people might take a week or two. Even if it took you a month or two, you do get it, because human beings learn. And then you can just type like anything, But if you don't do that, then you're crippled. You see, so I was a crippled typer, a crippled accordion player, a crippled basketball player for my whole youth because I didn't follow the basic instruction. You see? So it's the same thing in Krishna consciousness. We got to follow the basic instruction. Otherwise we're going to be crippled in our spiritual life. We're not going to be able to progress properly. See? So getting back to this question of, how do we get there? What's being described here? And I mentioned, well, you get there by following the instruction of the spiritual master, strictly, sincerely, with an attitude to try to please him. So what is that instruction? Well, there's many instructions. But here's one. Here's an important instruction. Back earlier in this chapter, Prabhupada, in his purport to one of these verses where it's talking about how the yogi has to, first, I'll read the passage. It says, the yogi should clear the passage of vital air by breathing in the following manner. First he should inhale very deeply, then he should hold his breath in, and then finally exhale. Or reversing the process, you can first exhale and then hold the breath outside and finally inhale. This is done so that the mind may become steady and free from external disturbances. So that's the translation. It sounds difficult just hearing it. I feel like, just hearing it. But then Prabhupada says in the purport, this breathing exercises are performed to control the mind and fix it on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, period. So he says it's for that purpose. Next sentence, he says, Savai Mana Krishna Padada Vindaya, the devotee Ambarish Maharaj fixed his mind on the lotus feet of Krishna 24 hours a day. Notice, he didn't do that. Maharaj, Prabhupada doesn't, he's not explicitly saying it, but it's like, boom. He didn't do that, all right? And then in the next sentence he says, the process of Krishna consciousness, not that Maharaj Ambarish was out of Krishna, he was Krishna conscious, but he's way back in the Satya Yuga, a long time ago. The process of Krishna consciousness is to chant Hare Krishna and hear the sound attentively so that the mind is fixed upon the transcendental vibration of Krishna's name, which is non-different from Krishna, the personality of Godhead. So, in other words, are we doing that? This is about as basic as it gets, right? This is as basic as it gets. Are we trying to hear the sound attentively? Are we trying to fix our mind upon the transcendental vibration of Krishna's name, which is non-different from Krishna, the personality of Godhead? That's what we should be trying to do that. We should be trying to do that. If we're not trying to do that, we're like me. We're like the idiot who, refused to practice, not looking at the ball when you dribble, not looking at the keys when you type, and not looking at your hands while you're playing the accordion. You're not going to get anywhere. This is the basic thing. This is equivalent. I mean, as I said, probably just use the expression crude analogy, but it's a crude analogy, but I think it's pretty accurate. We got to do this. We have to try to hear the sound attentively, so that the mind becomes fixed on the transcendental vibration of Krishna's name. That's like means it's a concerted effort we have to make to do that. And if we don't do it now, at some point, if you want to really progress, you're going to have to do it, right? You're going to have to do it, and and for the newer devotees, I suggest start doing it right away, because once you get habits, it's hard to break them. Prabhupada tells that story about the man who goes to the music conservatory in Vienna, and he walks in and says, hey, I want to learn how to play the violin, okay? And the lady, the receptionist, says, okay, just fill out this paperwork here. And he goes, by the way, have you ever played the violin before? He says, yeah, actually, I've been playing for 10 years, but I want to. She says, oh, okay. So she filled out this form and sit down over there. So he sits down in the waiting, in the reception room there, and he's filling out the form. And somebody else comes in. Oh no, and she says, okay, yeah, your lessons will be $20 an hour, like that. So, and then another person comes and says, I want to learn how to play the violin. She says, okay, have you ever played the violin before? She says, no, I've never even picked up a violin. I don't know anything about it. She said, okay. So sit down, fill out the form, and your lessons will be $10 an hour. Everybody's heard this story before, right? That's how it finished up. So when the first guy hears that, he walks up to the desk and, hey, what's going on? He says, I've been playing the violin for 10 years, and you're telling me my lessons are going to be $20 an hour, and here's this person who just walked in off the street, and she said she never even picked up a violin, she never even held a violin in her hand, and her lessons are only going to be $10 an hour. Well, what's going on? She said, yeah, first we're going to have to unteach you all your bad habits. It's going to be harder than starting from scratch with you because you've got all these bad habits. You think you know how to play the violin, but we're going to have to unteach you everything you think you know and then start. So it's like that. It's like that, We have to, this is the basic thing, to try to hear the sound attentively so that the mind becomes fixed upon the transcendental vibration of Krishna's name, which is non-different from Krishna, the personality of Godhead. And we have to, do it. We have to make a serious program about doing that. I actually, the devotee gave me a book called Gaudiya Kantahar. It's actually the shloka book of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. He actually put it together himself, and he published it. It wasn't like he just had a little shloka book, and after he passed away, his disciples, no. He actually, so anyway, in that book, it's the different sections of this tattva, that tattva. So towards the end of the book was Nam tattva. And there was two things in there that really kind of caught my attention. Was two different references. One was from the Chaitanya Bhagavat, and the other was from the Naradiya Prahlad Uvaka. But both of them were saying that loud chanting in kirtan was 100 times more, what is the word he used? 100 times more potent. 100 times more potent than chanting japa, which was like, wow, I never heard that before. And one could argue, because there are other statements from Prabhupada's books, but the point is this, it's super important. Whether you accept that it's 100 times more powerful than chanting japa or not, let the Pandits argue that out, but the point is, they're both super important. When we come to kirtan, we should loudly chant, and in the kirtan. Really get into it, the chanting. And when we sit down to chant our japa, same thing. Really try to hear the transcendental, fix the mind upon the transcendental vibration of Krishna's name. And it's a good starting point. So, I think that's all I really wanted to say. Oh, yeah, that's really all I wanted to say about this verse. Anybody have any questions? Brahma-saṁhitā.
Hare Krishna. Wonderful class, Bhrgupati Prabhu. It is very important what you said about, hearing, Mahamantra. So I just want to ask you, can you share maybe some realization about that in your own, life?
Okay, yeah, I'll say a little something about that, and other people can say something too. Prabhupada's saying that fix the mind on the transcendental vibration of Krishna's name. Well, what does he mean by that? What exactly does he mean by that? Well, this is my understanding, that sometimes I'm, chanting, and it just to me like producing any other vibration. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. I could be saying Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola, or whatever, mango, 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 Mr. John, Prabhupada uses those as some purpose. But there's sometimes when you're chanting, even this morning, to be honest with you, at Mangalarti, I got a teeny experience. It's something different. There's a certain energy. When Krishna wants to, he allows you to enter into the transcendental nature of the holy name. It's something totally different. So I kind of think that's ideally what's being said here, to fix the mind upon the transcendental vibration. To get there, to experience that transcendental vibration, it's something that has to be revealed to you, awarded to you, but the process is you got to do it. In the meantime, there's sometimes I'm chanting and it feels just no different than any other. I could be singing, I could be talking. But sometimes, when you're chanting, you wait a second, this is different. This is what's going on here? It's actually like that. I'm just in the kirtan or something, and I go, wait a second, what's going on here? There's a different energy. It's a different experience. I think that's what's kind of, we're shooting for that. We're shooting to be in that all the time. I'm just, as I said, I just kind of maybe experiencing like the tip, or just like going when you go to a pool or go to a lake to go swimming, just getting your toes in the water, But the idea is to dive deep. We want to go deep. We should, and we have to pray for that, because there's nothing you could do to make it happen. It's not mechanical. It's not like you can just push, okay, Krishna, give me that taste. I'm grabbed. No, it has to be a word that says, we have to pray. We have to pray, please allow me to enter into what the chanting of the Maha Mantra is really, what it really is. Allow me to enter into it, to experience, to relish the transcendental sound vibration. That's a gift. You can't force it, It has to be awarded to you by the mercy of the spiritual master. So but the process is just like Prabhupada, and I think in the Nectar of Instruction, there's that verse number 7. I don't know the Sanskrit, but it talks about how, the chanting is actually sweet like sugar candy, but to one whose senses are afflicted by the jaundice of avidya, it seems like bitter. But Rupa Goswami says, Prabhupada, it's his book, says that, but the cure for that is you just got to take it. You got to do it. And he gives the example, just like somebody who has jaundice, when they taste something like sugar candy, it's bitter to them. But the cure is they got to take it. They got to take it, and then what happens is that it somehow or another, it acts on the system, the liver, in such a way that it gets cured. And as they get cured, it starts tasting sweeter and sweeter. So that's the thing. We might, to start off with, we might not be, it might be bitter. We're chanting and we're not tasting anything. But it's okay. Just do it. Concentrate on the sound vibration. Concentrate on the transcendental vibration. Pray. Pray to your spiritual master. Pray to Prabhupada, please give me your mercy. Please allow me to enter into this chanting. Please purify my consciousness so I can actually experience what chanting Hare Krishna really is. I don't think I am now. Please give me that mercy. Just try like anything and pray. That would be my insight on that.
I have a question, but before that question, your comment again about the last part of the chanting. Sometimes we have seen that devotees, while they chant, they read, and they say that that's not being an obstruction because they actually get inspiration while they're chanting, but at the same time, you either read or you chant, because, in my experience, it's like if you're reading, your mind can take you away and you might follow what the reading is saying, and the chanting becomes mechanical, while the devotee might argue and say, well, but that inspired me to have realizations and taste. So your comment?
Okay, yeah.
And then I have my question.
So
this is just one first.
As I said, by Prabhupada's mercy, on some occasions I feel like I've actually experienced what the chanting is, and that when you're chanting and you're getting a taste, you don't need to, nothing else is required. In other words, your attention is not going to go anyplace else. Your attention is on the chanting. You don't have to look at a picture, you don't have to read, you don't have to look at a word, nothing. You just, Hare Krishna, Hare, and you're tasting it. It's you're experiencing, okay? When you're not experiencing that, then sometimes devotees, they look at a picture, sometimes I have a book open, but I'm not reading, I'm just looking at like 2 words, or sometimes I'm even just looking at 1 word, Krishna, you couldn't call that reading, but it's not the full attention, it's something less than full attention on the sound vibration, but that's the best I could do at that time. Reading is also inattentive chanting, but it's better than not chanting. And if you need to do that, I don't recommend it necessarily, but it's better than not chanting. It's better than just like thinking of something totally mundane and against the regulative principles while you're chanting. It's something, but it's not like a recommended thing to read and chant at the same time. But so if somebody's doing that, they should understand that I'm chanting inattentive. But, try to pull up your socks and progress on from that. That's what I would say.
So now the comment.
Notice I left a lot of time for questions and answers because I thought they would be. So it's only 8:21, so don't get nervous, anybody. We still got time, 9 minutes.
It's a question, but in your analogy about the person who wants to learn violin or guitar, and one pays less, one pays more according to the conditioning. So a thought came to my mind that a person or a living entity who's been in this material world for millions of years, conditioned, being told that you are this body, it's going to be so hard to learn even within the process of Krishna consciousness, while other ones, sometimes we seem that they, you don't know how many births that person had. It looks like he picks it up really right away. Can you give a comment on that? Is that might be one of the reasons that sometimes devotees struggle so much and they chant and they follow, but they can't because the preconditioning that they have to pay hard. In other words, with the laws of material nature.
Yeah, well, it is there that different people are taking up from where they left off, and that's one possible explanation. That somebody who comes and it seems like they're doing really well right away, like our Shirokura Gopinath, maybe he's taking up from where we left off in a past lifetime, whereas somebody else might be a devotee for a way longer time, but they're struggling, just even with basic simple things. Like that's explained by the philosophy that we're all. It's a multi-life process. We're continuing from where we left off, picking up from where we left off in our last lifetime.
So it should never be that speculation that maybe the process doesn't work, or this Krishna consciousness doesn't work. So
no, you should be thinking, we don't work. I don't work. I don't work. That's what's happened. Here, go ahead, Archita Prabhu. And then Rabindranath. Actually, he had his hand up earlier, but I got distracted.
Hare Krishna. I think you remember when we joined in Henry Street, it was drilled into us that you have to chant the Panchatattva mantra before the Mahamantra. That's where the mercy comes from. You can't get to Radha Krishna without going through the Panchatattva. So everybody should chant before every round. You should chant the Panchatattva mantra. Now, in addition to that, Prabhupada recommends that you glorify the Hare Krishna. Learn some verses that glorify the Hare Krishna mantra. And he specifically mentioned the first verse from Rupa Goswami's Namashtaka. Nikila Shuti Moli Ratnamala Duti, that verse. So you don't have to chant it before every single round, but you should chant verses glorifying. And after years of living with Dravida, I got into that habit. He does it after every round. After every round, he remembers some verse that glorifies the holy name, and he chants it out loud, and then he gets back into the japa.
Dravida does that?
Yeah. Uh-huh. So, of course, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, everybody should chant that before every round. But if you can learn some other verses glorifying the holy name, that will help, because it gets you in the mood that this is something very special. And again, Prabhupada specifically mentioned that very first verse of Namashtaka. It's in the books. If you don't know where to find it, I can show you, but everybody should try to learn that verse, glorifying the holy name.
I had some sort of an experience with that. I was in Vrindavan, and it was like during a period when I was into praying to the 6 Goswamis. So Prabhupada says in that purport, if you adhere to the lotus feet of the 6 Goswamis and pray for their mercy, all impediments will be annihilated, and the transcendental desire for devotional service to the Supreme Lord will be fulfilled. So I got into the habit, somehow or another. I was chanting just the Sanskrit of that prayer, Sri Sri Sad Goswami Astika, before each round or after each round. And that was the time when I've had the best experience chanting in my entire life. I was up super early in the morning. This was all happening before Mangalarti. So I'd get up and I'd chant that song, and then I'd chant my round. And I was walking around, on the parikram thing there. And I can remember that distinctly as being the time when I experienced the most absorption and the most taste for chanting. Why didn't I keep doing it? Well, Maya, just foolish. But I got a call, give it Rabindranath first, because he's been waiting, and then...
Yeah, you were mentioning how kirtan is 100 times greater than japa.
It was in the book. There was two references, one from the
Yeah.
Chaitanya-Bhagavat and one from the Naradiya Prahlad Uvaka, yeah.
So if that's being the case, during the kirtan, should one be chanting japa or reading during that time?
I don't think so. Ideally, no.
Okay, thank you.
Prabhu, thank you for a nice class. I'm just trying to recall specifics, but I just don't remember everything. But I do know that Prabhupada was in Atlanta.
Yeah, louder.
Srila Prabhupada was in Atlanta, and he was having a darshan with the Sankirtan devotees. And they were asking questions of this caliber, how to make advancement, how to, chant better, how to do the... And Prabhupada made a very important comment. He said that one can make spiritual advancement by, once you start chanting your japa, you should not stop till you finish all 16 rounds.
Were you there for that personally? Is that?
No, I wasn't there.
Oh.
But I was told that because I was in Atlanta 2 days after Prabhupada left.
Ah.
So I was talking to the devotees like Charadeshna Prabhu, and they were telling me that there was a darshan, and they were asking Srila Prabhupada these questions. And that was Prabhupada's answer. Once you start chanting your 16 rounds, don't stop, don't do anything till you finish your 16 rounds. Prabhupada said, this is makes very fast advancement in Krishna consciousness.
Yeah, that makes sense. Anybody else? Anything?
Just one last thing, Prabhu, and that comment that you mentioned, that Srila Prabhupada, isn't it, maybe you correct me in this one, that also Prabhupada said that for grihastas who work outside, if you cannot chant all your rounds, you can do in the morning some portion, 3 times a day. And then like that. So there's that part too. I just want to mention that. Yeah.
The question in darshan was how we can become better devotees, better book distributor, how can we preach nicely, be strong in your Krishna conscious life.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'll read the rest of this purport and then we'll end the class. This Prabhupada says, so Ambrish Maharaj fixed his mind on the lotus feet of Krishna 24 hours a day. The process of Krishna consciousness is to chant Hare Krishna and to hear the sound attentively so that the mind becomes fixed upon the transcendental vibration of Krishna's name, which is non-different from Krishna, the personality. The real purpose of controlling the mind by the prescribed method of clearing the passage of the life air is achieved immediately if one fixes his mind directly on the lotus feet of Krishna. The Hatha Yoga system or breathing system is especially recommended for those who are very absorbed in the concept of bodily existence, but one who can perform the simple process of chanting Hare Krishna can fix the mind more easily. Okay, thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.